Hi there, Jack Howarth here and Craig Howarth from Corby Tennis Centre. We have a new racket review for you today. We are going to be reviewing the new Head Prestige Tour. The racket is 305 grams, the balance is 320 millimeters, which is pretty standard. That's neither particularly head heavy nor head light. A little bit different to mine. Mine is a headlight racket. Dad's the balance is a little bit further down. It's got quite a closed string pattern, this one, that's worth mentioning. It's an 18 by 19 string pattern, which is different to a lot of the rackets that you get. It's usually 16 by 18 or 18 by 20.
I think you'll probably find that you will get quite a lot of control with this. Maybe not as much spin as when they're a little bit wider apart, but I think it will be pretty good for control.
It's a reasonably narrow head. It says it's a 99 square inch size. They always look a little bit different to me, the Prestige ones, because I think they're quite thin this way. And it's a reasonably thin beam down here, which just means you have to generate a lot. I tend to prefer those kind of rackets. Dad, you've started to move to more powerful ones, haven't you?
Yeah, mine is definitely a little bit wider, and I find as I've got a bit older, I need a little bit of help to get a little bit of the pace that I'm after. So I think I'm probably going to find this quite hard work, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so in a minute we're going to hit a few more balls, and we're going to talk over it just to give you an idea about the sort of different ways that we think about when we're trying with a different frame, just to make sure that we're giving it a really good chance to see what works for us and what doesn't.
That's just me checking out the tension. Yeah, here we go. Just trying to feel the weight of the racket on these few opening ground strokes, just to see if I like the feel of it. Bit heavy. Here we go. Few slice backhands, absolute classic. You know I love my slice backhand. I can't move very well these days, so I have to use that a lot. Chopper grip forehand, here we go, 80s style. I'm afraid that's me all over. So I'm just absolutely having a few swings, just still feeling it. It's a bit heavy, but you know, I don't know if I'm as bad as I think.
Lasagna.
Now here, I am really struggling. You know, I'm trying to play some volleys. The weight of the racket is making me late on nearly everything. I'm struggling a lot with this. I don't think Jack will, but I am. Pleasantly surprised with this. You know, when serving, the weight was alright, and I really got a bit of racket speed.
So moving over to me now, I'm just doing the same thing as Dad was, really just having a feel on both sides. I'm not doing anything particularly different to normal with this. We were still warming up, so nothing too, you know, not too much effort going into any of these, just really feeling what it's like off the strings, and most of the time that was pretty good. Little saber thrown in there as well. So I'd said to Dad I really wanted to go heavy for a few, and you can see the extra height and spin I'm getting on some of these forehands and backhands. That was important for me because that's a big part of my game, and those felt pretty good with me here. I got a good amount of spin.
Not as much spin as I get.
So moving on to a few volleys here. Obviously important to hit some. I do come in a lot and I play a lot of doubles. The weight felt pretty good in my hands. Nothing too quick in terms of how quick I could move it, but nice solid connection for a lot of these.
Your usual touch of an elephant.
So a few serves here. Didn't put in all the second serves because I did miss a few, but not bad. Felt like I could still hit the corners okay.
Hi, we're back. So that was interesting. I found it a little bit hard work, which I thought I would do. For me, it felt particularly hard on my ground strokes. You know, I know that mine are very flat, but I found it really quite difficult to get the head underneath the racket, and I also found it hard to get the racket head through the ball quickly enough.
It felt very, very steady, very solid. There wasn't much pop, I will say that, a nice amount of control. I always felt like I was in control, even when I was trying to add a bit more pace, trying to go a bit heavier with the feel like I mentioned. everything kind of stood up for me well there. So I quite liked it because I felt I had good control over what I was trying to do all the time, basically.
Yeah, the bit that I found the hardest with it was my volleying. I found that extra weight made a big difference. I was late on, as you saw, I was late on most volleys. I couldn't get the racket through the ball quickly enough on my volleys. You were okay?
I was okay, yeah. Pretty similar to the ground strokes, I would say. It was just a nice solid contact all the time. Didn't feel like I didn't feel like I hit any amazing volleys. When I had time and managed to set up, I was perfectly happy. Reasonable marks there, just a little bit personal preference coming into that one, I think.
We both like to hit a few slice backhands. It's quite a big part of how we both play, particularly me. I do use mine a lot. And actually that was one of the few shots that I hit that I was reasonably comfortable with it and felt okay, and it holds the ball quite well on the strings when you're going for that, so that was quite nice. And I was surprised that I actually felt that I served better with it than I expected to. I didn't actually notice the extra weight too much on the serves, as opposed to I really did on the volleys and a bit on the ground strokes.
I felt it was safe without giving me too much. I think the racket head speed was lacking a bit, especially for my first serve, although I missed 3 or 4 second serves long, which I don't usually do, just trying to hit kickers. I'm usually good at getting the ball down because I get enough spin.
Yeah.
And so I think it was the racket head speed that was just failing me there a little bit. That may have been the racket, that may have just been me. We were still warming up a little bit as we hit those, so that may have come into it. I'm
not certain about this. I'm guessing that because of the shape of the head, I think that the sweet spot might be a little bit higher than in some other rackets. But as Jack said earlier, I think it's a normal sort of head size, a 99 square inches, similar to what a lot of the pros are using.
Yep, I think it is a player's racket. I'm going to stick by that.
I was about to ask you, who do you think it would really suit? I couldn't agree with you more. I still hit a reasonable ball, and I would have found this quite hard to play with. And you're right, I think for most club players, it's certainly something that you should try before you buy, without any question. But for good players, I think it could be a really good one to get hold of.
Yeah. Or even, if you are a bit of a lower standard, but you have no problems generating your own pace.
Yes.
Someone who's going to be using this usually will have nice long fluid strokes. If you think that will suit your game, then I think it's a nice racket, because you're going to be able to craft the ball and have better control than you would with something else that gives you more.
Good point.
A little bit of a different one that we've done here today, not as much of a mass marketed model as some of the others, but still very useful for us to have a look at.
I'm sticking to my radical.
Okay, thanks very much for tuning in. Hopefully we're going to be uploading a bit more regularly again, and so we will see you next time. Thanks very much.
Thank you.